The hotel key card wouldn't work no matter how many times Lila swiped it. She stood in the hallway of the Grand Plaza Hotel, her bridesmaid dress wrinkled from travel, holding her weekend bag in one hand and frantically trying the electronic lock with the other. Below, she could hear the wedding party's laughter echoing from the bar, but all she wanted was to collapse in her room and prepare for tomorrow's chaos. "Come on, please work," she whispered to the stubborn card, swiping it again. The red light blinked mockingly at her. After 10 more attempts, she finally gave up and headed back to the front desk. The hotel lobby buzzed with weekend guests, and she had to wait behind a family checking in before reaching the counter. "Hi, I'm having trouble with my key card," she said to the desk clerk, a young man with tired eyes. "Room 2847. He took her card and typed something into his computer. His eyebrows raised slightly as he stared at the screen. "I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but there seems to be some confusion. You're listed as sharing room 2847 with a Mr. Ryan Mitchell. It appears there was a mix-up with the wedding party reservations." Lila's heart dropped. "Sharing? There has to be a mistake. I specifically requested a single room." The clerk's fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "I see the issue. The wedding planner booked you as a couple when she made the group reservation. Unfortunately, we're completely booked this weekend due to 3 other weddings. I can't provide separate rooms. But I can't share a room with some random man." Lila's voice rose slightly, causing nearby guests to glance over. "The suite has 2 separate bedrooms and a shared living area," the clerk offered hopefully. "It's actually our luxury wedding party package. Very spacious." Lila closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Her best friend Sarah's wedding was tomorrow, and she was the maid of honor. She couldn't cause drama over sleeping arrangements when Sarah was probably stressed enough already. "Fine," she said finally. "But if this Ryan person is some kind of creep, I'm calling security." The clerk handed her a new key card. "Mr. Mitchell checked in about an hour ago. He seemed very nice." Lila trudged back to the elevator, her weekend bag feeling heavier with each step. The suite was on the top floor and the elevator ride felt endless. When the doors finally opened, she walked down the elegant hallway with its plush carpet and expensive artwork, wondering what kind of person could afford the luxury wedding package. She swiped her card at room 2847, and this time it worked. The door opened to reveal the most beautiful hotel suite she'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city skyline, and the living area had cream-colored furniture that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Fresh flowers sat on the coffee table and champagne chilled in a silver bucket. "At least if I have to share, it's somewhere nice," she muttered, dropping her bag by the couch. That's when she heard the shower running. Reality hit her like cold water. There was actually a man in this suite. A stranger she'd be sharing space with for the next 3 days. Her hands started to shake slightly as she realized how vulnerable this situation made her. She didn't know anything about this Ryan person except that he was apparently wealthy enough to afford luxury suites. The bathroom door was closed, but steam escaped from underneath. She could hear someone moving around inside, completely unaware that she was now in the room. Part of her wanted to grab her bag and run back to the lobby, but where would she go? The clerk had made it clear that no other rooms were available. She sat heavily on the couch trying to figure out what to do. Should she wait for him to come out? Should she call Sarah and explain the situation? Should she just leave and sleep in her car? The shower turned off. Lila's heart started beating faster. In a few minutes, she'd come face to face with the stranger she'd be living with for the weekend. She had no idea if he was old or young, kind or dangerous, normal or completely insane. The hotel clerk's assurance that he seemed nice didn't provide much comfort. She heard footsteps in the bathroom and the sound of the door opening. This was it. Her weekend was about to get very complicated, and she had no choice but to face whatever came next. The bathroom door swung open and Lila held her breath, waiting to see what kind of person she'd be trapped with for the next 3 days. Steam billowed out of the bathroom as a tall man emerged, wearing nothing but a towel around his waist and another draped over his shoulders. His dark hair was wet and messy and water droplets still clung to his chest. When he saw Lila sitting on the couch, he froze completely. "Oh my God," he said, his voice deep and surprised. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know anyone else was here." Lila quickly looked away, her cheeks burning. "I just got here. The front desk said there was some mix-up with the reservations." "You must be the other person they mentioned," he said, backing toward one of the bedrooms. "Let me just get some clothes on. This is incredibly awkward." "Tell me about it," Lila muttered, still not looking in his direction. "I'll be right back," he called, disappearing into what she assumed was his bedroom. Lila finally exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. From the brief glimpse she'd gotten, Ryan Mitchell appeared to be around her age, physically fit, and thankfully not obviously dangerous. But sharing a suite with any strange man still made her nervous. A few minutes later he emerged wearing jeans and a button-down shirt, his hair still damp but combed back. Now that he was fully clothed, Lila could see that he was actually quite handsome, with kind brown eyes and a genuine smile. "I'm Ryan," he said, extending his hand. "And I promise I'm not usually half naked when meeting new people." Despite her anxiety, Lila found herself smiling. "Lila. And I promise I don't usually break into hotel rooms." They shook hands and Lila noticed his grip was firm but gentle. He sat down in the chair across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. "So," Ryan said, running a hand through his hair, "this is definitely not how I expected my weekend to start. You're with the bride's party?" "Maid of honor," Lila confirmed. "You're with the groom?" "Best man. I've known Tom since college." Ryan looked around the suite. "I have to admit, when they offered me this room I thought it was just because Tom wanted to spoil his wedding party. I had no idea it was meant for 2 people. The clerk said the wedding planner booked us as a couple," Lila explained. "Apparently there's no other rooms available." Ryan nodded thoughtfully. 3 other weddings this weekend, right? That's what they told me too." He paused, seeming to consider something. "Look, I know this is a strange situation. If you're uncomfortable, I can sleep on the couch or we can try to find another solution." Lila studied his face, looking for any sign of hidden intentions. But his expression seemed genuinely concerned for her comfort, not annoyed about the inconvenience. "The clerk said there are 2 bedrooms," she said slowly. "There are. I already put my stuff in the one on the right, but I can move if you prefer that one." "No, that's fine. As long as we both have our own space." Lila felt some of her tension ease. Ryan seemed reasonable and respectful, which was more than she dared to hope for. "Absolutely. And I promise to be fully dressed whenever I leave my room from now on," he said with a slight grin. Lila couldn't help but laugh. "I'd appreciate that." "Are you hungry?" Ryan asked. "I was about to order room service. We could split something if you want, or I can just order for myself if you'd rather eat separately." The offer surprised her. She'd expected him to treat her like an inconvenience, but instead he seemed to be trying to make the best of their situation. "I am pretty hungry," she admitted. "I haven't eaten since this morning." Ryan picked up the room service menu from the coffee table. "What do you like?" "They have pretty much everything." They spent the next few minutes looking over the menu together, and Lila found herself relaxing despite the unusual circumstances. Ryan was easy to talk to, and he seemed genuinely interested in making sure she was comfortable with their food choices. "So what do you do?" Ryan asked as they waited for their food to arrive. "I'm a teacher," Lila said. "3rd grade. What about you?" "I work in investments," he said simply. Lila nodded, not really understanding what that meant but not wanting to seem ignorant by asking for details. The suite they were sharing suggested he made quite a bit of money in investments, whatever that involved. "How do you know Sarah?" Ryan asked. "We've been best friends since high school. She's the sister I never had." Lila's expression softened as she thought about her friend. "I'm so happy she found Tom. She deserves someone who loves her completely." "Tom's a good guy," Ryan agreed. "He's been talking about Sarah nonstop for 2 years. I've never seen him so happy." They talked easily until room service arrived with their dinner. As they ate, Lila found herself genuinely enjoying Ryan's company. He was funny and thoughtful, asking questions about her teaching job and sharing stories about his friendship with Tom. "I have to ask," Lila said as they finished eating, "are you okay with this arrangement? I mean, you probably expected to have this fancy suite to yourself." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I was looking forward to some alone time. Weddings can be overwhelming and I usually need space to recharge." He looked at her directly. "But this isn't bad. You're good company." Lila felt a warm flutter in her stomach at his words. "Thanks. You're not terrible either." As they cleaned up from dinner, Lila realized that her anxiety about the weekend had completely disappeared. Ryan had turned what could have been a nightmare situation into something almost pleasant. "What time do we need to be downstairs tomorrow?" Ryan asked. "Sarah wants everyone there by 9 for pictures before the ceremony," Lila said. "The wedding's at 2. "Perfect. I'm usually an early riser anyway." They said goodnight and headed to their separate bedrooms. As Lila got ready for bed, she couldn't stop thinking about how wrong her first impressions had been. She'd expected to spend the weekend hiding from some awful man, but instead she was sharing the suite with someone who seemed genuinely nice. Still, she reminded herself as she settled into the luxurious bed, she barely knew him. One pleasant evening didn't mean she should let her guard down completely. But for the first time since receiving her key card, she felt like the weekend might actually be enjoyable. Lila woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of quiet conversation coming from the living area. For a moment, she was confused about where she was, but then she remembered the events of the previous evening. She checked her phone. It was 7:30, which gave her plenty of time before the morning photography session. She got dressed quickly in jeans and a comfortable shirt, planning to change into her bridesmaid dress later. When she emerged from her bedroom, she found Ryan sitting at the small dining table with coffee and what looked like a continental breakfast spread. "Good morning," he said, looking up from his phone. "I hope you don't mind. I ordered some breakfast for both of us. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got a variety." The table held fresh fruit, pastries, yogurt, and several types of breakfast sandwiches. Lila's stomach growled, reminding her that she'd barely eaten dinner the night before. "This is really thoughtful," she said, sitting down across from him. "Thank you." "Coffee?" Ryan asked, already pouring her a cup. "Please. I'm not fully human until I've had caffeine." Ryan laughed. "I completely understand. I've already had 2 cups." As they ate breakfast, Lila found herself studying Ryan more carefully in the morning light. He was definitely handsome, but in an understated way. His clothes were expensive looking but not flashy, and he had an easy confidence that suggested he was comfortable in most situations. "So what's the plan for today?" Ryan asked. "Pictures at 9, then the bridal party has lunch together. The ceremony starts at 2, followed by cocktails and dinner." Lila paused. "What about you guys?" "Tom wanted to play golf this morning, but honestly, I think he's too nervous to focus on his game. We'll probably just hang out and make sure he doesn't panic." "Sarah's been amazingly calm," Lila said. "I keep waiting for her to have a breakdown, but she seems genuinely relaxed." "Maybe they're just ready," Ryan suggested. "Some couples know they're meant to be together." There was something wistful in his voice that made Lila look at him more closely. "You sound like you speak from experience." Ryan shrugged. "More like lack of experience. I've never felt that kind of certainty about anyone." Before Lila could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah asking if she was awake. The morning wedding preparations were about to begin. "I should go find Sarah," Lila said, standing up. "Thank you again for breakfast." "Have fun with the pictures," Ryan said. "I'll see you at the ceremony." Lila gathered her dress and makeup bag, then headed downstairs to Sarah's room. She found the bride surrounded by her mother, sister, and 2 other bridesmaids, all in various states of preparation. "Lila," Sarah called out, looking radiant even without her dress on. "How was your first night in the fancy suite?" "Wait, what fancy suite?" asked Jessica, one of the other bridesmaids. Lila quickly explained the room mix-up, watching Sarah's expression change from confusion to concern to barely suppressed amusement. "So you're sharing with Ryan Mitchell?" Sarah asked, trying not to smile. "You know him?" Lila asked. "Tom's told me about him. He's supposedly some kind of financial genius who started his own company." Sarah's eyes sparkled with mischief. "And Tom mentioned he's single." "Sarah, don't even think about it," Lila warned. "It's just a practical arrangement." "Of course it is," Sarah said innocently. "I'm sure sharing a romantic suite with a handsome millionaire is purely practical." The other bridesmaids giggled and Lila felt her cheeks warm. "Can we please focus on your wedding instead of my temporary living situation?" For the next 2 hours, Lila threw herself into maid of honor duties. She helped with hair and makeup, made sure everyone had everything they needed, and tried to keep the group on schedule. But she found her mind wandering to Ryan more often than she cared to admit. During the photography session in the hotel's garden, Lila spotted Ryan across the courtyard with Tom and the other groomsmen. He was laughing at something Tom said, and when he noticed her looking, he gave a small wave. The simple gesture made her stomach flutter unexpectedly. "Earth to Lila," Sarah said, following her gaze. "The photographer needs you to move to the left." "Sorry," Lila said, quickly focusing back on the photos. But Sarah wasn't fooled. During a break between shots, she pulled Lila aside. "Okay, what's really going on with you and Ryan?" Sarah asked quietly. "Nothing's going on. We just shared breakfast and had a nice conversation." "Lila, I've known you for 10 years. You're glowing, and you keep looking at him like he's the most interesting person you've ever met." Lila sighed. "He's not what I expected, that's all. When I heard I was sharing a room with some rich guy, I assumed he'd be arrogant or demanding. But he's actually really thoughtful and easy to talk to. And gorgeous, Sarah added with a grin. That's not the point, Lila protested, though she couldn't deny it was true. Honey, when was the last time you were excited about a guy? Sarah asked gently. It's been over a year since you broke up with Michael, and you haven't shown interest in anyone since. Because I've been focused on my career and hiding, Sarah interrupted. Michael really hurt you and you've been protecting yourself ever since. But maybe it's time to take a chance again. Before Lila could respond, the photographer called them back for more pictures. But Sarah's words stayed with her for the rest of the morning. Was she interested in Ryan beyond just being grateful for his kindness? And if so, what was she going to do about it? During the bridal party lunch, Lila found herself distracted, thinking about their conversation that morning and the way Ryan had looked at her when he talked about never feeling certain about anyone. There had been something vulnerable in his expression that made her want to know more about him. Lila, you're a million miles away, observed Kelly, Sarah's sister. Just thinking about the timeline for this afternoon, Lila lied smoothly. I want everything to go perfectly. But the truth was she was thinking about Ryan and wondering if she was brave enough to let herself feel something for someone again. The weekend was still young and she had 2 more days of sharing space with him. Maybe Sarah was right, maybe it was time to stop hiding and take a chance. The hotel's private dining room was elegantly decorated with white flowers and soft lighting for the rehearsal dinner. Lila arrived early to help with last-minute details, wearing a navy blue dress that made her feel confident and comfortable. She was arranging place cards when she heard a familiar voice behind her. Need any help with that? She turned to find Ryan approaching, looking incredibly handsome in a dark suit. Her heart did a little skip and she had to remind herself to breathe normally. I think I've got it handled, she said, trying to sound casual. You clean up pretty well. Thanks. You look beautiful, by the way. The compliment was simple and genuine, and it made Lila's cheeks warm. Thank you. Before she could say anything else, Sarah's mother rushed over with a seating chart crisis, and Lila was pulled away to help resolve it. But she remained aware of Ryan's presence throughout the pre-dinner mingling, catching glimpses of him talking with other guests and helping Tom greet relatives. When everyone was called to dinner, Lila discovered that she and Ryan had been seated next to each other at the head table. Sarah caught her eye from across the room and gave her an innocent smile that fooled no one. I think we've been set up, Ryan said quietly as he held out Lila's chair. Sarah's about as subtle as a hurricane, Lila agreed, sitting down. As dinner progressed, Lila found herself genuinely enjoying Ryan's company. He was an excellent conversationalist, asking thoughtful questions about her teaching career and sharing funny stories about his friendship with Tom. He was also incredibly attentive, making sure her water glass stayed full and that she got to try the appetizers she mentioned liking. So, Lila said during the main course, Sarah mentioned you started your own company. What kind of investments do you do? Ryan looked slightly uncomfortable. It's pretty boring stuff. Corporate consulting mostly. What about you? Do you enjoy teaching? Lila noticed he deflected her question, but she didn't press. I love it. 3rd graders are amazing. They're old enough to have real conversations but young enough to still believe in magic. That sounds perfect for you, Ryan said, and something in his tone made her look at him more closely. What do you mean? You have this way of making people feel comfortable and important. I bet your students adore you. The comment was so unexpectedly sweet that Lila felt tears prick her eyes. That's one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. It's just the truth, Ryan said simply. Their conversation was interrupted when Tom stood up to make a toast. As the groom thanked everyone for being there, Lila noticed Ryan watching her instead of listening to the speech. When their eyes met, he didn't look away and she felt that flutter in her stomach again. After dinner, the group moved to the hotel bar for drinks and dancing. The DJ played a mix of classic and contemporary songs, and the dance floor quickly filled with couples. Lila was talking with some of Sarah's relatives when Ryan appeared at her elbow. Would you like to dance? He asked. Lila's pulse quickened. Dancing would mean being close to him, and she wasn't sure she trusted herself to maintain the friendly distance she'd been trying to keep. I'm not a very good dancer, she said. Neither am I. We can be terrible together. His smile was so charming that she couldn't refuse. She let him lead her onto the dance floor just as a slow song began to play. Ryan's hand settled on her waist and she placed her palm against his chest, feeling his heartbeat under her fingers. See? You're a better dancer than you claimed, Ryan said as they swayed to the music. You're not bad yourself, Lila replied, though she was having trouble concentrating on anything besides how good it felt to be in his arms. They danced in comfortable silence for a while, and Lila found herself relaxing against him. When the song ended and a faster one began, they stayed on the floor, dancing and laughing as they tried to keep up with the beat. "You two look great together," Sarah said, appearing beside them during a brief break between songs. "Sarah," Lila warned. "What?" "I'm just making an observation." Sarah's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Ryan, you should know that Lila is an amazing woman. She's smart, funny, beautiful, and she makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world." "Sarah," Lila protested, mortified. But Ryan was smiling. "Good to know. I love chocolate chip cookies." "I'm going to kill her," Lila muttered as Sarah danced away with Tom. "Don't be too hard on her," Ryan said. "She's just looking out for you." "By embarrassing me to death?" "By making sure I know how lucky I am to be spending time with you." Lila looked up at him in surprise. There was something serious in his expression that made her breath catch. "Ryan, I know this is complicated," he said quietly. "We barely know each other and we're thrown together in this strange situation. But I need you to know that I'm really glad the hotel made that mistake." Before Lila could respond, the music changed to an upbeat song, and the moment was broken as other couples moved around them. But Ryan's words echoed in her mind for the rest of the evening. As the party wound down, Lila found herself walking back to the suite with Ryan, both of them slightly tired from dancing and laughing all evening. "Thank you for tonight," she said as they waited for the elevator. "Thank you for what?" "For being such good company. For making this whole weekend feel less overwhelming." "That's funny," Ryan said as the elevator doors opened. "I was thinking the same thing about you." They rode up to their floor in comfortable silence, but Lila's mind was racing. Something had shifted between them tonight, and she wasn't sure what to do about it. She was attracted to Ryan. That much was undeniable, but she also knew that whatever was happening between them had an expiration date. After the wedding, they'd go back to their separate lives and she'd probably never see him again. As they reached their suite, Ryan paused with his key card in his hand. "Lila," he said, then stopped, seeming to wrestle with something. "What is it?" He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw the same vulnerability in his expression that she'd noticed that morning. "Nothing," he said finally. "Just, sleep well." "You too," she replied, though she suspected sleep would be the last thing on her mind. As she got ready for bed, Lila couldn't stop thinking about the way Ryan had looked at her on the dance floor, and the way her heart had raced when he'd said he was glad about the hotel's mistake. Sarah had been right. She was hiding, protecting herself from the possibility of being hurt again. But what if Ryan was worth the risk? Lila lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to stop her mind from racing. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered the way Ryan had looked at her while they danced, and the serious tone in his voice when he'd said he was glad about the hotel mistake. She replayed their conversations, looking for clues about what he might be thinking and feeling. After an hour of tossing and turning, she gave up on sleep and decided to get some water from the kitchen. She slipped on her robe and quietly opened her bedroom door, not wanting to wake Ryan if he was sleeping. But the living area wasn't dark. Soft light came from the floor lamp by the couch, and she could see Ryan sitting there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city lights. "Can't sleep either?" she asked softly. He turned, not seeming surprised to see her. "My mind won't shut off. I hope the light didn't wake you." "No, I've been awake for a while." Lila moved to the kitchen and got herself a glass of water. "Want anything?" "I'm good, thanks." She joined him on the couch, tucking her legs under her and maintaining a respectful distance. The city sparkled below them, and the suite felt like a private world suspended above everything else. "What's keeping you awake?" she asked. Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Thinking about tomorrow, I guess. And about how strange this weekend has been." "Strange how?" "I came here expecting to fulfill my best man duties and go home. I wasn't expecting to meet someone who would make me question everything I thought I knew about myself." Lila's heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" Ryan turned to face her. "Can I ask you something? And will you promise to give me an honest answer?" "Okay," she said, though her voice came out slightly breathless. "Do you feel it too? This connection between us?" Lila's first instinct was to deflect or make a joke to diffuse the tension. But the vulnerability in Ryan's expression stopped her. He was being brave enough to put himself out there, and he deserved her honesty in return. "Yes," she said simply. "I feel it too." Ryan exhaled as if he'd been holding his breath. "I thought maybe I was imagining it." "You're not imagining it." Lila pulled her robe tighter around herself. "But I don't know what to do about it." "Why not?" Because this is temporary, she said. After tomorrow we go back to our real lives. You'll go back to your investment company and I'll go back to my classroom. We'll probably never see each other again. What if we didn't want it to be temporary? Ryan asked quietly. Lila stared at him. Ryan, we barely know each other. I know enough, he said. I know that you're kind and thoughtful. I know that you care deeply about the people you love. I know that you make me want to be a better person just by being around you. You don't know the real me, Lila protested. You don't know that I'm terrible at keeping plants alive, or that I cry at commercials, or that I sometimes eat cereal for dinner because I'm too tired to cook. Ryan smiled. Those things don't scare me. Do you want to know what does scare me? She nodded. The thought of walking away from this without seeing where it could go. Lila felt tears prick her eyes. Part of her wanted to throw caution to the wind and tell him she felt exactly the same way. But the rational part of her brain, the part that had been protecting her since Michael, was screaming warnings. I'm scared too, she admitted. But I'm also scared of getting hurt again. Tell me about him, Ryan said gently. The guy who hurt you. Lila was surprised by his perceptiveness. How did you know there was someone? Sarah mentioned that you haven't dated anyone in over a year. And there's something in your eyes sometimes, like you're protecting yourself from something. Lila took a shaky breath. She hadn't talked about Michael with anyone except Sarah, but something about the quiet intimacy of their midnight conversation made her want to open up. His name was Michael. We dated for 3 years and I thought we were going to get married. I was completely in love with him and I thought he felt the same way. She paused, gathering her courage. It turned out he was seeing someone else for the last year of our relationship. Someone from his law firm who fit better into his world. I'm sorry, Ryan said quietly. That must have been devastating. It was. But the worst part wasn't just the cheating. It was realizing that I'd been living in a fantasy. He never saw me as someone he could build a real life with. I was just convenient until something better came along. Ryan reached over and took her hand. He was an idiot. Maybe. Or maybe he was just honest about what he wanted, and I was too naive to see it. No, Ryan said firmly. He was an idiot and a coward and he didn't deserve you. The conviction in his voice made Lila look at him through her tears. You don't even know me well enough to say that. I know enough to say that any man who would cheat on you and throw away what you had together is an idiot, Ryan said. And I know that you deserve someone who sees how amazing you are and never wants to let you go. They sat in silence for a moment, Ryan still holding her hand. Lila felt simultaneously exposed and comforted by his presence. What about you? She asked. You said you've never felt certain about anyone. Why not? Ryan was quiet for a long time, and Lila wondered if she'd pushed too hard. Finally he spoke. I think I've been waiting for someone to see past the surface, he said. Most women I've dated have been more interested in what I can provide than who I actually am. After a while, it becomes hard to tell if someone likes you or just likes your lifestyle. That must be lonely, Lila said. It is. But it's also safe, you know? If you don't let people get too close, they can't disappoint you. So we're both hiding, Lila observed. Looks that way. Ryan turned their joined hands over, tracing patterns on her palm with his thumb. But I don't want to hide from you. The simple statement hung in the air between them, full of possibility and promise. Lila felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. This is terrifying, she whispered. I know. But maybe the best things are. They talked until nearly 3 in the morning, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. By the time they finally said goodnight, Lila felt like she knew Ryan in a way that went far deeper than their brief acquaintance should have allowed. As she finally drifted off to sleep, one thought kept circling through her mind. Maybe it was time to stop being afraid and start being brave. Lila woke up to her phone buzzing frantically on the nightstand. According to the screen it was only 6:30, but she had 7 missed calls from Sarah and 3 panicked text messages. Emergency. Need you now. Room 1247. Lila's heart jumped into her throat. She threw on clothes and rushed out of the suite, not even thinking about Ryan until she was already in the elevator. Sarah's room was chaos when she arrived. Oh, thank God you're here, Sarah said, practically pulling Lila through the door. Everything is falling apart. The room looked like a tornado had hit it. Wedding dress pieces were scattered across the bed, makeup was everywhere, and Sarah's mother was on the phone speaking rapidly in what sounded like panic mode. What happened? Lila asked, trying to assess the situation. The seamstress delivered the wrong dress, Sarah said, her voice shaking. This one is 2 sizes too big and she's not answering her phone. The florist called to say half the centerpieces are wilted because their cooler broke down overnight. And Tom's cousin just called to say his flight was canceled and he can't make it to walk my grandmother down the aisle. Lila took a deep breath, switching into crisis management mode. Okay, we can fix this. Let me see the dress. The wedding gown was beautiful but clearly meant for someone much larger than Sarah. However, Lila had helped her mother with alterations for years and had a good eye for what could be salvaged. I think we can make this work with some creative pinning and maybe a different undergarment, Lila said, examining the dress carefully. Do you have a backup bra that's more supportive? While Sarah searched through her luggage, Lila's phone rang. It was Ryan. Hey, is everything okay? I heard you rush out. Wedding emergency, Lila said quickly. Multiple disasters. I'll probably be here for hours. Do you need help? I'm pretty good in a crisis. Lila almost said no automatically, but then she remembered their conversation from the night before about not hiding from each other. Actually, yes. Could you call the florist and see if they have any backup options? The number should be in Sarah's wedding folder on the desk in our living room. On it? What else? We need someone to walk Sarah's grandmother down the aisle. Tom's cousin can't make it. I'll handle that too. Don't worry, we've got this. The confidence in his voice made Lila feel like maybe everything would actually be okay. For the next 3 hours, Lila worked with military precision to solve each crisis. She pinned and adjusted Sarah's dress until it fit perfectly, coordinated with the hotel's event staff to create backup centerpieces using flowers from the hotel's garden, and helped Sarah's makeup artist create a look that would hold up through tears of joy. Meanwhile, Ryan proved to be incredibly resourceful. He convinced the florist to deliver whatever arrangements they had available at a discount, recruited 2 other groomsmen to help set up the ceremony space, and even found a solution for Sarah's grandmother's escort. Tom's grandfather had volunteered to walk with her, making it a sweet tribute to their long marriage. By 11 o'clock, most of the major crises had been resolved, but new smaller problems kept popping up. The wedding cake had arrived, but it was missing the decorative flowers that were supposed to go on top. Sarah's sister had spilled coffee on her bridesmaid dress. The string quartet had called to say their violinist was sick. I can't do this, Sarah said, sitting down heavily on the bed. Maybe we should just postpone everything. Sarah, look at me, Lila said firmly. You're going to marry the love of your life today. Everything else is just details. But what if something goes wrong during the ceremony? What if the dress rips or the flowers die or... Then we'll handle it, Lila interrupted. That's what friends are for. Just then Ryan appeared in the doorway with Tom beside him. Tom looked nervous but determined. I know it's bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony, Tom said, but I needed to tell you something. Sarah looked up at him with tears in her eyes. Tom, I'm so sorry about all the disasters. This isn't the perfect wedding you deserved. Tom crossed the room and knelt beside her chair. Sarah, I don't care if we have to get married in the hotel lobby with paper flowers and a boombox. All I want is to be your husband. Everything else is just decoration. The simple sincerity of his words made everyone in the room tear up, including Lila. She caught Ryan's eye across the room, and he smiled at her with such warmth that her heart fluttered. He's right, Lila said softly. The marriage is what matters, not the wedding. Sarah took a shaky breath and nodded. Okay, let's do this. The next few hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Lila helped Sarah into her dress, which now fit beautifully thanks to their morning alterations. Ryan coordinated with the hotel staff to make sure the ceremony space was perfect. Together, they managed to create a backup playlist when the quartet couldn't find a replacement violinist. By 1:30, everything was ready. Sarah looked radiant in her dress. The ceremony space was decorated with a charming mix of professional and improvised flowers, and all the guests were seated and happy. I can't believe we pulled this off, Lila said, checking her reflection in the bridal suite mirror. We make a good team, Ryan said, appearing behind her. In the mirror, Lila could see that they did look good together. Her bridesmaid dress complemented his groomsman suit perfectly, and there was something about the way they stood together that just felt right. Thank you, she said, turning to face him. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to. Before Lila could respond, Sarah's mother called for the wedding party to line up. The ceremony was about to begin, and despite all the morning's chaos, everything was going to be beautiful. As they walked toward the ceremony space, Ryan offered Lila his arm. Ready for this? He asked. Ready, she said, though she wasn't sure if she was talking about the wedding or something else entirely. The hotel's garden ceremony space had been transformed into something magical despite the morning's disasters. White chairs were arranged in perfect rows, and the improvised flower arrangements actually looked more charming and organic than the original formal centerpieces would have. Soft music played from the carefully curated playlist, and golden afternoon sunlight filtered through the trees. Lila stood at the back of the aisle with the other bridesmaids, her heart beating fast with nervous excitement. She could see the guests turning in their seats, waiting for the processional to begin. At the front of the space, Tom stood with Ryan and the other groomsmen, looking nervous but happy. "Places everyone," whispered the wedding coordinator. The music changed to the processional song, and the bridesmaids began their walk down the aisle. Lila was the last to go before Sarah, and as she made her way toward the altar, she found herself looking directly at Ryan. He was watching her with such an intense expression that she almost stumbled. When she reached the front, she took her place and turned to watch for Sarah. The bride appeared at the back of the aisle, radiant and glowing, her arm linked with her father's. Despite all the morning stress, Sarah looked completely serene as she walked toward Tom. Lila felt tears prick her eyes as she watched her best friend's face light up when she saw her groom. Tom's expression was one of pure love and wonder, as if he couldn't believe Sarah was really about to become his wife. The ceremony itself was beautiful and heartfelt. Tom and Sarah had written their own vows, and there wasn't a dry eye in the audience as they promised to love and support each other through whatever life brought them. When they exchanged rings, Lila noticed Ryan watching her instead of the couple, and she felt that familiar flutter in her stomach. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant announced. Tom and Sarah's kiss was met with cheers and applause from their guests. As they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Lila felt overwhelmed with happiness for her friends and with the bittersweetness of witnessing such pure love. During the recessional, Ryan offered Lila his arm, and they walked together behind the happy couple. As they moved down the aisle, Lila was acutely aware of Ryan's presence beside her, of the way their steps naturally fell into sync, of how right it felt to have him next to her. "Beautiful ceremony," he said quietly as they reached the back of the space. "Perfect," Lila agreed, though she was finding it hard to concentrate on anything besides the warmth of his hand on her arm. The cocktail hour began immediately, and Lila was swept into maid of honor duties, helping Sarah bustle her dress, making sure the photographer got all the important family combinations, and generally ensuring that everything ran smoothly. But even while she was busy with wedding tasks, she remained aware of Ryan across the room, helping with groomsmen duties and charming Sarah's relatives. During a brief break between photo sessions, Ryan approached her with 2 glasses of champagne. "You look like you could use this," he said, offering her a glass. "Thanks. I feel like I've been running around all day." "You've been amazing," Ryan said. "Sarah's lucky to have you as her maid of honor." "I just want everything to be perfect for her," Lila said, taking a sip of champagne. "It already is perfect. Look at them." Lila followed his gaze to where Tom and Sarah were talking with their grandparents, both of them glowing with happiness. "They look so happy," she said softly. "They look like they belong together," Ryan agreed. "Like they were meant to find each other." There was something in his tone that made Lila look at him more closely. "Do you believe in that? People being meant for each other?" Ryan was quiet for a moment, watching the happy couple. "I never used to. I thought love was just compatibility and timing and good luck. But watching them together." He paused, then looked directly at Lila. "Maybe some people are just meant to find each other." The intensity in his gaze made Lila's breath catch. She had the feeling they weren't just talking about Tom and Sarah anymore. "Lila, we need you for more pictures," Sarah called from across the room. The moment was broken, but Ryan's words echoed in Lila's mind as she posed for more photos. Did he think they were meant to find each other? And if so, what did that mean for whatever was happening between them? The cocktail hour flew by, and soon it was time for the reception dinner. Lila found herself seated next to Ryan again, and she wondered if Sarah had specifically requested that arrangement or if it was just coincidence. "I think your friend is matchmaking," Ryan said quietly, seeming to read her thoughts. "She's not exactly subtle about it," Lila agreed. "Do you mind?" The question was asked casually, but Lila could see the seriousness in Ryan's eyes. Her answer mattered to him. "No," she said honestly. "I don't mind." Ryan smiled, and Lila felt that familiar warmth spread through her chest. During dinner they talked easily about everything and nothing: the ceremony, the food, their families, their travels. Lila found herself laughing more than she had in months, and she noticed that Ryan seemed more relaxed than she'd seen him all weekend. When it came time for the speeches, Tom stood up to thank everyone for coming. He talked about how he'd never expected to find someone who understood him so completely, and how Sarah had changed his life in ways he was still discovering. To love that surprises you when you least expect it, Tom said, raising his glass. As everyone toasted, Lila caught Ryan looking at her again. This time she didn't look away. Instead, she raised her glass to him with a small smile, and he did the same. The moment felt significant, like they were making some kind of promise to each other without words. After dinner, the DJ invited everyone to the dance floor for the couple's first dance. Lila watched from the sidelines as Tom and Sarah swayed together, completely lost in each other and oblivious to their audience. "They look perfect together," she said to Ryan, who had come to stand beside her. "They do. But I think the real test will be in 5 years, when the honeymoon phase is over and they have to deal with real life together." "You sound skeptical about marriage," Lila observed. "Not skeptical. Just realistic. I think a lot of people mistake intensity for compatibility. What do you think makes the difference?" Ryan considered the question carefully. "I think it's about seeing someone clearly, their flaws and strengths, and choosing to love them anyway. It's about building something together instead of just being swept away by feelings." His answer surprised her with its thoughtfulness. "That's a very mature perspective." "I've had a lot of time to think about it," Ryan said with a slight smile. As Tom and Sarah's dance ended and other couples joined them on the dance floor, Ryan turned to Lila. "Would you like to dance?" This time Lila didn't hesitate. "I'd love to." As they moved onto the dance floor and Ryan took her in his arms, Lila realized that something fundamental had shifted between them during the ceremony. Watching Tom and Sarah commit to each other had made her think about what she wanted for her own life, and increasingly, what she wanted included the man holding her now. The dance floor filled with couples as the evening progressed, but Lila felt like she and Ryan were in their own private world. They danced through several songs, sometimes talking softly, sometimes just enjoying the comfortable silence between them. "I have a confession," Ryan said as a slow song began to play. "What's that?" Lila asked, looking up at him. "I'm actually a terrible dancer. I've just been trying to impress you." Lila laughed. "Well, it's working. Though I should probably confess that I'm not as bad as I claim to be either." "So we've been lying to each other about our dancing abilities?" "Apparently. What other secrets are you hiding?" Ryan's expression grew more serious. "A few." "What about you?" Before Lila could answer, they were interrupted by an older woman tapping Ryan on the shoulder. "Excuse me, dear, but I couldn't help noticing what a lovely couple you make. Are you married?" "Oh, we're not," Lila began. "Not yet," Ryan said smoothly, pulling Lila closer. "We're still figuring things out." The woman beamed at them. "Well, you have that look. The same look Tom and Sarah have. Don't wait too long to figure it out, life's too short." As the woman walked away, Lila stared at Ryan in shock. "Why did you say that?" "Because it felt right," he said simply. "And because I wanted to see how it sounded." "Ryan." "I know it's crazy," he interrupted. "We've known each other for 3 days. But I can't shake the feeling that this is something special." Lila felt her heart racing. "You can't just say things like that." "Why not?" "Because..." She struggled to find the words. "Because it's terrifying and because I don't know what to do with it." "You don't have to do anything with it right now," Ryan said gently. "Just don't dismiss it." Before Lila could respond, Sarah appeared beside them, slightly breathless from dancing. "Can I steal my maid of honor for a minute?" she asked Ryan. "Of course," he said, releasing Lila reluctantly. Sarah dragged Lila off the dance floor and into a quiet corner of the reception room. "Okay, spill," Sarah demanded. "What's going on between you two?" "I don't know," Lila said honestly. "That's the problem. You look like you're falling in love with him." "Sarah, it's been 3 days. People don't fall in love in 3 days." "Says who?" "Tom and I knew we were meant to be together after our first date." "That's different. You two are perfect for each other." "And you and Ryan aren't?" Lila sighed. "We're from completely different worlds, Sarah. He's this successful businessman who can afford luxury hotel suites, and I'm a third-grade teacher who clips coupons. Even if there is something between us, how could it possibly work long-term?" Sarah's expression softened. "Honey, you're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Talking yourself out of something good before you even give it a chance. You did the same thing when you got the job offer in San Francisco last year." "That was different. That was about my career." "No, that was about you being afraid to take risks. Just like this is about you being afraid to let yourself fall for someone who might actually be worth it." Lila looked across the room to where Ryan was talking with Tom and some other groomsmen. As if sensing her gaze, he looked over and smiled at her, and she felt that familiar flutter. What if he breaks my heart? She whispered. What if he doesn't? What if he's the one who puts it back together? Before Lila could respond, the DJ announced that it was time for the bouquet toss. Sarah grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the group of single women gathering in the center of the dance floor. Sarah, I don't want to. Come on, it's tradition. You have to participate. Reluctantly, Lila joined the group, standing toward the back and hoping the bouquet would land nowhere near her. She noticed Ryan watching from the sidelines with an amused expression. Sarah turned her back to the group and raised the bouquet high. Ready, ladies? She threw it over her shoulder, and Lila watched in horror as the flowers sailed directly toward her. Her instinct was to duck, but at the last second she found herself reaching up and catching it. The other women cheered, and Sarah turned around with the biggest grin Lila had ever seen. I knew it! Sarah exclaimed, hugging her tightly. Lila stood frozen, holding the bouquet and feeling everyone's eyes on her. She looked around the room and found Ryan, who was smiling at her with such warmth that her knees went weak. Looks like you're next, said Jessica, one of the other bridesmaids. It's just a silly tradition, Lila protested, but her voice lacked conviction. As the crowd dispersed and the music resumed, Ryan approached her. Nice catch, he said. It was an accident, Lila said quickly. Was it? She looked down at the bouquet in her hands, then back at Ryan. I think Sarah threw it directly at me. Probably. She seems to have strong opinions about us. Ryan, about what you said earlier. I meant it, he said quietly. All of it. But you don't really know me. You don't know that I'm actually kind of boring and that I worry about everything, and that I'm terrible at taking risks. I know that you care deeply about the people you love. I know that you're strong and capable and that you handled every crisis today with grace. I know that you make me want to be braver than I am. Lila felt tears prick her eyes. This is happening too fast. Maybe. Or maybe it's happening exactly when it's supposed to. Before she could respond, the DJ announced the last dance of the evening. Couples began moving onto the dance floor for the final slow song. Dance with me, Ryan said, offering his hand. One more time. Lila hesitated for a moment, then took his hand. As they moved into each other's arms, she realized that she was tired of being afraid. Sarah was right, she had been talking herself out of good things for too long. Ryan, she said as they swayed to the music. Yeah. I'm scared, but I don't want to run away from this. He pulled back to look at her. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we should see what happens when we get back to the real world. The smile that spread across Ryan's face was brighter than all the wedding lights combined. Are you sure? No, Lila said honestly. But I'm willing to find out. As the song ended and the reception began to wind down, Lila realized that she was no longer thinking about the weekend ending. Instead, she was thinking about what might be beginning. The next morning, Lila woke up feeling different. She lay in bed for a few minutes, listening to the sounds of Ryan moving around in the living area, and tried to process everything that had happened the night before. She had essentially agreed to pursue a relationship with a man she'd known for less than 4 days. It should have terrified her, but instead she felt excited about the possibilities. She got dressed and emerged from her bedroom to find Ryan sitting at the dining table with coffee and breakfast, just like the previous mornings. But today something was different about his expression. He looked troubled, almost anxious. Good morning, she said, pouring herself coffee. Everything okay? We need to talk, Ryan said, and Lila's stomach dropped. Those 4 words never led to anything good. That sounds ominous, she said, trying to keep her voice light. It's not ominous exactly. But there's something I need to tell you before this goes any further. Lila sat down across from him, her heart starting to race. What is it? Ryan ran his hands through his hair, clearly struggling with how to begin. I haven't been completely honest with you about who I am. What do you mean? When you asked about my work, I said I was in investments. That's true, but it's not the whole truth. Lila felt a chill of fear. Are you married? No, nothing like that, Ryan said quickly. It's about money. Money? I'm not just well off, Lila. My company, it's one of the largest investment firms in the city. I'm worth considerably more than I let on. Lila stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. How much more? Ryan was quiet for a moment. Enough that money will never be a concern for me. Or for anyone I'm with. The words hit Lila like a physical blow. She thought about all the conversations they'd had, all the time she'd worried about their different social classes, all the ways she'd felt insecure about not fitting into his world. So when I was worrying about us being from different backgrounds, you were sitting there knowing that the gap was even bigger than I thought? Lila, that's not. How much bigger? she interrupted. Are we talking millions? Tens of millions? Ryan's silence was answer enough. Lila stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. I can't believe this. I told you about Michael, about how he made me feel like I wasn't good enough for his world. And you've been hiding the fact that you're in a completely different stratosphere. I wasn't hiding it to hurt you, Ryan said, standing up too. I was hiding it because I wanted you to get to know me for who I am, not what I have. But it's part of who you are. Lila turned to face him. Your wealth affects everything about your life, where you live, what you do, who you spend time with. How can I get to know the real you if you're hiding something that fundamental? Because it's not fundamental to me, Ryan said desperately. Yes, I have money. Yes, it makes certain things easier. But it doesn't define who I am as a person. Doesn't it? Lila asked. Ryan, you can afford to stay in luxury hotel suites like this is nothing. You probably have a house that costs more than I'll make in my entire career. We're not just from different worlds, we're from different planets. That doesn't matter to me. But it matters to me. Lila's voice rose. Don't you understand? I've been down this road before. I've been the poor girl who didn't fit in, who wasn't sophisticated enough, who embarrassed her boyfriend at fancy events. I would never. You would never what? Never be embarrassed by me? Never wish I was more polished, more educated, more suitable for your lifestyle? Ryan crossed the room to her. Lila, listen to me. I don't care about any of that. You say that now, but what happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when you have to introduce me to your business partners, or take me to charity galas, or explain to your friends why you're with an elementary school teacher? Then I'll tell them I'm with you because you're the most amazing woman I've ever met, Ryan said firmly. Because you're kind and smart and strong and beautiful. Because you make me laugh and challenge me and make me want to be better. Lila felt tears streaming down her face. That's what Michael said too in the beginning. Ryan's expression crumpled. I'm not Michael. How do I know that? How do I know you won't get tired of slumming it with the poor teacher? Because I love you, Ryan said quietly. The words hung in the air between them. Lila's breath caught and she stared at him in shock. You don't love me, she whispered. You've known me for 4 days. I know it sounds crazy. I know it's too soon. But I've never felt like this about anyone before. Ryan took a step closer. I love the way you take care of everyone around you. I love how you handled every crisis yesterday with such grace and competence. I love that you see the best in people and bring out the best in them. Ryan, stop. I love that you catch bouquets accidentally and then blush about it. I love that you eat cereal for dinner and cry at commercials. I love that you're brave enough to let yourself feel things, even when they scare you. Please stop, Lila said, more tears falling. I love you, Lila. Not because you fit into my world, but because you make me want to build a new world with you. Lila collapsed into the chair, overwhelmed. I can't do this. Why not? Because I'm terrified that you're right. Because I think I might love you too, and that scares me more than anything. Ryan knelt beside her chair. Then let's be terrified together. Lila looked at him through her tears. What if this is a mistake? What if we try and it doesn't work? What if we don't try and spend the rest of our lives wondering what if? Before Lila could answer, her phone rang. It was Sarah. I should probably get that, she said, wiping her eyes. Lila, are you crying? Sarah's voice was concerned. What's wrong? Ryan just told me he's apparently some kind of millionaire, and also that he loves me, and I don't know what to do with any of that information. There was a pause. Okay, I'm coming up. Sarah, you're supposed to be on your honeymoon. Our flight doesn't leave for 3 hours. I'm coming up. 5 minutes later, Sarah was at their door, still in her going-away outfit but looking determined. All right, she said, looking between Lila and Ryan. Let's sort this out. Sarah sat on the couch between Lila and Ryan like a referee at a boxing match. She'd listened to both sides of the story, asked pointed questions, and now she was ready to render her verdict. Okay, she said, turning to Ryan first. You messed up by not being completely honest from the beginning. Money isn't something you can just casually forget to mention when you're getting to know someone. Ryan nodded. You're absolutely right. I should have told her. But, Sarah continued, turning to Lila, you're letting fear make decisions for you again. This man just told you he loves you, and instead of dealing with that, you're fixating on the money thing because it's easier to run away from something concrete than to face your feelings. That's not, Lila started. It is, Sarah interrupted. I've watched you do this for years. Whenever something good happens, you find a reason why it won't work. You talked yourself out of the job in San Francisco, you talked yourself out of dating that nice teacher from your school, and now you're trying to talk yourself out of this. But the money thing is real, Sarah. We really are from different worlds. So, Tom and I are from different worlds too. I grew up in a tiny town in Ohio and he grew up in Manhattan. I went to state school, he went to Harvard. I work at a nonprofit, he works on Wall Street. Should we have not gotten married because we're different? That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Sarah turned to Ryan. Tell me honestly, do you care that Lila is a teacher instead of a lawyer or a banker or whatever? Not even a little bit, Ryan said immediately. I think what she does is amazing. She's shaping young minds and making a difference in kids' lives every day. That's more important than anything I do. Sarah looked back at Lila. And tell me honestly, if Ryan worked at the hardware store but was exactly the same person otherwise, would you still have feelings for him? Lila was quiet for a moment. Yes. Then the money isn't really the issue, is it? But it affects everything else. Only if you let it, Sarah said. Ryan, what would you want your life with Lila to look like? Ryan looked at Lila as he answered. I'd want us to build something together. I'd want to support her dreams, whatever they are. She wants to keep teaching, great. If she wants to start her own school or write children's books or travel the world, I'd want to make that possible. I'd want us to figure out how to blend our lives in a way that works for both of us. And what about the fancy lifestyle? Sarah asked. The charity galas and business dinners? I hate that stuff, Ryan said honestly. I only do it because it's expected. If I could skip every fancy event for the rest of my life and just spend time with Lila, I'd be perfectly happy. Sarah turned back to Lila. And what are you really afraid of? Lila was quiet for a long moment, thinking. I'm afraid of not being enough, she said finally. I'm afraid that eventually Ryan will realize he could have someone more sophisticated, more beautiful, more suitable for his lifestyle. And I'm afraid that I'll change myself trying to fit into his world and lose who I am in the process. Those are legitimate fears, Sarah said gently. But they're also fears that could apply to any relationship. Any partner could decide you're not enough. Any relationship could change you in ways you don't want to be changed. So what's the alternative? Ryan asked. Never try? Never take the risk? The alternative is to be brave, Sarah said. Both of you. Ryan, you need to be brave enough to let Lila see all parts of your life, even the parts you think might scare her away. And Lila, you need to be brave enough to believe that you're worthy of love, even from someone who happens to have money. Lila looked at Ryan, who was watching her with such hope and vulnerability that her heart ached. I'm scared, she whispered. I'm scared too, he said. But I'm more scared of losing you. What if we try this and it doesn't work? Then at least we'll know we tried. And if it does work? He paused, seeming to gather his courage. If it works, we could have something amazing. Lila felt the last of her resistance crumbling. Sarah was right, she was letting fear make her decisions and she was tired of being afraid. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. Let's try. Let's see what happens. The smile that spread across Ryan's face was radiant. He reached for her hands and she let him take them. Really? He asked. Really? But we're going to do this slowly and we're going to be honest with each other about everything. No more secrets. No more secrets, Ryan agreed. Sarah clapped her hands together. Finally. Now, I have a honeymoon to get to, but first I need details about how this is going to work logistically. For the next hour, they talked through the practical aspects of starting a relationship. Ryan lived in the city about an hour from Lila's apartment. They decided he would come visit her the following weekend, and she would visit him the weekend after that. They'd take turns, they'd talk every day, and they'd see how things developed naturally. And no expensive gifts or fancy trips for at least 6 months, Lila said firmly. I need time to get comfortable with this without feeling like you're trying to buy my affection. Deal, Ryan said, though he looked slightly disappointed. You can buy her flowers, Sarah said helpfully. And you can cook for her. But no jewelry or vacations or anything that costs more than a nice dinner out. After Sarah left for her honeymoon, Lila and Ryan spent their final hours in the suite talking about their hopes and concerns for the future. They talked about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears about relationships. By the time they had to check out, Lila felt like she understood Ryan better than she'd understood anyone in a long time. So, Ryan said as they stood in the hotel lobby with their bags, I'll call you tonight? I'd like that, Lila said. And I'll see you Friday night? I'll make dinner. Nothing fancy, probably just spaghetti. Perfect. I love spaghetti. Ryan leaned down and kissed her gently, and Lila felt that familiar flutter in her stomach, but this time it was accompanied by something new, hope. I love you, he said quietly against her lips. I think I love you too, she whispered back. But give me a little more time to be sure. I'll give you all the time you need. As they said goodbye and went their separate ways, Lila realized that for the first time in over a year, she was excited about the future. She didn't know exactly what would happen between her and Ryan, but she was finally ready to find out. 3 months later, Lila was grading papers in her apartment when Ryan arrived for their weekly Friday night dinner. He'd kept his promise about taking things slowly, and they'd fallen into a comfortable routine of alternating weekends and daily phone calls. How was your day? He asked, kissing her hello and settling beside her on the couch. Good. Tommy Morrison finally mastered long division, and Maria wrote a story about her grandmother that made me cry. Happy tears or sad tears? Happy tears. She's been working so hard on her writing. Ryan smiled, and Lila realized that he never looked bored when she talked about her students. He always asked follow-up questions and remembered details from previous conversations. I have something to tell you, Ryan said, and Lila's heart jumped slightly. Even after 3 months, unexpected announcements still made her nervous. Good something or bad something? Good something, I think. I've been thinking about what you said about wanting to make a bigger difference in education. A few weeks earlier, Lila had mentioned her dream of starting a reading program for underprivileged kids. She'd been saving money to fund it herself, but it was going slowly on a teacher's salary. I've been looking into education nonprofits, Ryan continued, and I'd like to make a donation to start your reading program. Not as your boyfriend, but as someone who believes in what you're trying to do. Lila stared at him. Ryan, we talked about this. No expensive gifts. It's not a gift to you. It's a donation to help kids who need books. You'd run the program, you'd make all the decisions. I'd just be the anonymous donor. How much are we talking about? Enough to get it started properly. To buy books, rent space, hire a part-time assistant if you need one. Lila felt tears prick her eyes. You really believe in this? I believe in you. And I believe that what you want to do is important. That night, as they cooked dinner together in Lila's small kitchen, she realized that somewhere along the way, her feelings for Ryan had deepened from attraction to something much stronger. He'd proven over and over that he was nothing like Michael, that he valued her dreams and wanted to support them rather than change them. Ryan, she said as they sat down to eat. Yeah. I love you too. His fork clattered to his plate. You do. I do. I think I have for a while, but I was too scared to admit it. Ryan stood up and pulled her into his arms, spinning her around her tiny kitchen. I was starting to think you'd never say it, he said, setting her down and cupping her face in his hands. I'm a slow learner when it comes to trusting my heart, she said. But I trust you. And I trust us. As Ryan kissed her, Lila realized that Sarah had been right about taking chances. The best things in life required risk, required courage, required the willingness to believe that something beautiful was possible. 6 months later, Lila stood in front of the mirror in a hotel room that was remarkably similar to the one where she'd first met Ryan. But this time she was getting ready for their friends Jessica and Mark's wedding, and this time she wasn't worried about sharing a room with the man she loved. You look beautiful, Ryan said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. Thank you. You look pretty handsome yourself. In the mirror they looked like they belonged together. Lila's reading program had been running for 3 months and was already making a difference in dozens of children's lives. Ryan had started volunteering with the program, reading to kids on Saturday mornings, and Lila fell in love with him a little more every time she watched him with her students. Are you ready for this? Ryan asked. Another wedding? I think we're getting pretty good at weddings. I wasn't talking about the wedding, he said, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Lila's breath caught. Ryan. I know we said we'd take things slowly and we have. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you if you'll have me. He turned her around and dropped to one knee, opening the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring. Lila Johnson, will you marry me? Lila looked down at the man who had changed her life, who had shown her that love could be gentle and supportive and real. The man who had encouraged her dreams and believed in her abilities and never once made her feel like she wasn't enough. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, absolutely yes. As Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Lila realized that sometimes the best things in life happen when you least expected them. Sometimes sharing a hotel room with a stranger led to sharing a lifetime with your soulmate. And sometimes, if you were brave enough to take the risk, love really could surprise you in the most wonderful ways.